Okay, so this is class exercise number 2, part 3 with it. So as you can see, I have my Firefox over here, Chrome, whatever you want to do. Have the live server over here. If I change any of this stuff in here, let's say hello world, you could change anything like Dan rocks, for example, with it. Alright, something along that line with it. The white needs to be saved, and I do Control S. You notice that it's live. It changes the content on here as well with it. So here's what I want you to do. Alright, just go back to what we just did on here. You probably think Dan's full of himself right now, right? So I want to build something like React is a component software with it. Component means what? You have your buttons, you have your fields, you have your rectangle, square, every one of these components that you put together with it, all right, and how you mount it. Remember that. Keep that in mind. Is how you mount it is with the JavaScript with it as well. So I'm going to do like a little counter, just to demonstrate a little counter button. Every time when I hit a counter, a button, the counter changes with it as well. So I'm going to use the button. Use your IntelliSense with it, and I'm going to use this button. I'm going to do +1 right now, so just display. That's what it looks like right now with it. And then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to say a div tag with it, right? And then I'm going to do a display of, let's say 0. Okay, so let's say I did this. I save it, all right, you notice it went back to hello. Here's my button right here. Can you see that? And every time when I click on this +1, this 0 needs to go up by 1, increment by 1. Decrements to subtract, all right? So that's how I want to plan to do this right now with it, all right? So here we go. We're going to actually go in, and we're going to actually create, adding to it. If you remember IDs, all right? ID is a little uniqueness with this. So I'm going to call this thing, this ID, and the button increment button with it. All right, and I'm going to call the div is kind of like a row display, and a div ID. Give that also an ID called count display. Okay, if you can do that for me. Now, the purpose of this is we're going to create the index of the HTML and index of the JavaScript to have it talk to each other. You understand? So there's something that we're going to actually do right now. So here it is. Okay, so hello world. And I'm going to change this hello world. I want to probably add to it more. This is going to be an increment page demo. Okay, something along that line with it, right? Again, the white dot means it needs to be saved. Control S saves it, and you see how it's saved right now. So every time when I click on the plus, that I want that 0 to change to a 1. All right, does that make sense? Okay, let me continue. I don't know if this font size is kind of big enough with it, but let me change this font size a little bigger. I just realized you guys are probably so I just went File, Preference, come down to Text Editor, expand that font. My font size is 20. I'm going to crank that up to about 2 more size here. Make that a little bigger. Settings with it. Close that out. Is that better? So we're going to tie this into between the body with it, and this is very important. There's a couple ways you could do this. If you remember, you could do a script to link it to a script page with it. So you can do that, and the moment I do this, I can put all the scripts in here, and it just make this page very cluttered if I have it all on the same page. So what I'll do is I'm going to link it to the other page for me with it as well. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on that little plus sign, that little first icon over here which says New File. I'm going to do index.js. JS is short for JavaScript. Index.js. Hit Enter. And it's a blank document right now, right? Here's my index.js. I like to link it from my index.html to my index.js. So how do I do that? I created a script, and it's source, tab, IntelliSense kicks in, and I just type in index.js right here. So just click on the IntelliSense, saves you with it as well. Now, this is very important. You need to have the JavaScript link down at the bottom. I like to have it load. All of this needs to be loaded first, and then it runs the index.html. It makes the page run smoother. So if you had an error or processor issue with it, it's going to have a problem. You could throw off the page with it. At least this is display, and then your JavaScript is run. All right. So just FYI, best practice is to do that for me. Can you do that? So I'm going to come over to the index.javascript right here. So, if you remember JavaScript with it, I'm going to create an alert, kind of like an alert pop-up window with it. Just come in with a parentheses with it in a string. It's called hello world. You can say something like Dan is awesome, right, with it, right? So, again, here's that white dot, needs to be said, needs to be saved. So watch, I'm going to do Command S, saves it, right? It's going to update it in a second. Your index page, which is this, Command S, saves it. The moment I save that, if you look, the pop-up dialog box, hello world, Dan is awesome. Click on it, okay. That's it, right? So the two page we know are talking to each other right now, right? Again, going back to the React page, that I'm taking this apart with it. So you have two pages that are playing off one another. Imagine you're going to also use designs such as CSS as well to do layout for this as well. So it helps if you can piece all this together with it as well. All right. So let me recap what we're doing. We have two components in here. We got a button that we want to hook up to an ID that's displaying every time when I click on this +1, the 0, I want it to increment. The way how I want to do that is that I want to connect to the index.java here with it. So, excuse me. So I want the two files to talk to each other with it as well. All right, we're going to go in. We're going to actually hook this up right now with it. So one of the things I want to talk to you about is the DOM model, the Document Object Model, and the relationship. The DOM model is the relationship between the index.html and the index.java. So both of these things, the link between them, what you just saw is the alert box that popped up to it, is that it allows the object to be created by the JavaScript with it. And that's what I'm talking about, is that you got to be able to understand a little bit of background about the document object model, that the JavaScript is generating this object coming from the HTML that's being presented with it. So that's the linking part. If I had to ask you on a test exam question, what is the relationship between an index.html and the index.java, the JS file, is the DOM, Document Object Model. So these two files are linked together based on this hierarchical type of object model. This is what we're talking about, okay? So know that for the exam with it for me as well. So here's how I want to demonstrate this right now. Okay, so come over here to this is, I'm in the index.js. I want to delete that right now. Just remove that, make it empty for me. Come back on your index.html for me. I want to point this out. These are your two objects that you have, elements in here with it. Again, the relationship between the index.html and the index.js is what? The DOM, Document Object Model. And I need the JavaScript file to access these two objects that I have right here, these two elements, the button and the div, right? With this as well. So if you come over here, this is my Firefox browser or Chrome. Excuse me. With it, I want to right mouse click, and you come down here. If you take a look at where it says inspect with it, and you open up your inspector with it as well. And if you see your code, I want to move this up here so you can see this a little better with it. What I'm doing right here with it. Of course, this has the layout and all that stuff, but I'm interested in this. You see how this page links, you can see the code behind this. This code right here is this code right here, all right, for the page with it. And that's how you can see, and you can see the relationship between the two, that it connects together with it. Now, I want to come over here to the JS. I took up the alert box with it, and I'm going to use a command that says console, tab, a dot syntax says log, and one of the things I want to do is document on here. All right, this is a reserved word. Let me just use an IntelliSense with it as well. So this is what this looks like with it. So I'm going to save it. All right. Now you notice the moment I do that with it, this page changes. The content changes on the right with it. I'm going to expand, collapse out with it. It updates with it. It tells me. Remember now, this is the index.html page I'm looking at with it, and it shows me that I'm linking in with the index documents. That's what's going to be shown here. More important, this is how when you come over, if you could take a look at your console with it, and in your console you're going to see that I have some things that are display over here with it as well. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch to. I'm familiar with Chrome over Firefox with this. This is one of them. So hang on. That's okay. I'm going to still keep this as a Firefox over here with it as well. Click back in your inspector and leave this out for me. I want to take this console.log off of for now with it. I'm going to go into my index.js right now. I'm going to do an increment, and then by increment. Hang on. So, okay, before I move on, let me do this concept first with it. I want to show you this. So if I went over to the right-hand side, and if I hover over like a certain text with it, and you notice that, for example, my H1, or things like I have put up here, my H1 right here, I did dot, and this is the text I put in there. You notice how up here it's highlighted with it. If I hover over hello world, see how that's highlighted. Come down to my object is the one that's the button, see how that's highlighted, and then I come down to the div, that's how that's highlighted with. So each one of these things are a highlighted section that I'm pulling this in with it as well. That's the nice thing about you can debug through the browser with it, with the inspector with it. Now I want to come in. I'm just going to demonstrate to use the document that we just created. We're going to do the dot syntax, and if you do a get element by ID, for example, with it. Get element ID is basically to read it with it, and you're going to look in between the parentheses with this thing, and I'm going to put an apostrophe. Now, what ID are we looking for? By ID. So I'm going to jump over to the index.html. This is the name of the ID here. I'm going to get the first one. It's the increment-btn. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to paste that ID in here with it. All right. So, I pasted the wrong one. So I should paste this one. This is the one that needs to be pasted. Copy. Paste my other notes in here with it. So that's the ID that I'm pasting in right now with it. Right. I'm reading in from my Java script with my index.html with it. So by the time you read this from the right to the left for me, okay? So you're getting this object that's increment ID, increment button. That's going to get it by the ID with it. And then you're going to take all of that, you're going to store that by putting an equal sign. Programming an equal sign is the right side equals the left side. You're going to store that into a constant with it. And this constant I'm going to call is increment. Increment, okay? Increment button, uppercase the BTN, uppercase the button with it. All right, so that's how I'm going to store this in this constant with it. I have to put the word constant in front of it, like that. All right. My apology. Constant is not the word constant. It's just a constant is abbreviation for CONST. Okay. Let's say I want to output this thing to the screen right now, right? So come down here to the next line. I say console. Console is basically the screen with it. Log. And I want to print out is the increment. Look at this. My IntelliSense picks it up. Increment BTN with it as well, right? So I select that. Hey, so it's approaching 15 minutes. I'm going to actually stop the video. I don't want to get too long with this thing. So this is the end of part